boundary testing. So let's just put it out there. Conjugal life, marriage, partnership. For many women, it's painted as a destination, like a fairy tale ending. But for most of us, it's the beginning of the most soul-shaking, boundary-testing, identity-questioning journey of our lives. Because here's the truth. We don't talk about enough. You can be loved deeply and still feel unseen. You can be committed and still feel lonely. And you can carry the family on your back every day and still be told you're just overthinking. That's the messy middle of conjugal life for many women, especially the ones who show up day after day with open hearts, deep empathy, and 1,000 silent sacrifices. But let's get real. Why is it that women are the emotional caregivers, sexual caretakers, domestic CEO, and psychological healers in the marriage, but still feel like they're not enough? I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to blame. I'm here to tell the truth. And maybe if we tell the truth loud enough, long enough, and bravely enough, someone will hear us. And maybe that someone is us. And maybe that someone is us. I'm not here to preach. Eye contact with audience. We live in a world that still whispers to women, be less, stay small, don't disturb the peace. But what if silence isn't peace? What if peace is the result of truth? Raw, vulnerable, messy truth. Because guess what? Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the most accurate measurement of courage. And it takes an ocean of courage to say, this life, this love, this partnership, it matters, but I matter too. We were not born to shrink into someone else's version of a wife. We were born to be whole, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, sensual, complicated, powerful, loving, tired, joyful, and messy, all at once. And you don't owe anyone a watered down version of your truth just to make them feel more comfortable. In fact, the most honest gift we can give to our conjugal lives is the full, unfiltered version of who we are. No makeup, no mask, no martyrdom. That's how healing begins. Before the ring, before the rituals, before the shared last names and combined bank accounts, there was you. A girl with wild dreams, messy passions, strong opinions, unfiltered laughter, and a heart full of questions. You mattered then. And here's the truth nobody says out loud often enough. You still matter now. You are not someone's better half. You were whole when you stood alone, and you remain whole even in partnership. You are not a puzzle piece. You are a masterpiece. So many women step into marriage thinking they need to mold themselves, be more agreeable, less loud, more pleasing, less too much. They shrink, adjust, adapt. They wear smiles while silencing their passions. They dim their light so someone else can shine a little brighter. But you weren't born to become invisible in someone else's life. You were born to be seen, known, heard, and cherished for everything you already are, not just for what you give. Think of the woman who once stayed up until 2 a.m. writing poetry that made her soul sing, but now she tucks it away because there's no time with the kids and his routine. Think of the girl who once wanted to start her own business, but shelved the idea when she got married because his career took priority. That woman didn't vanish. She's still there, waiting to be claimed again. Your dreams didn't expire the day you got married. They've just been waiting for permission. Here it is. Permission granted. You are not selfish for wanting more than roles. You are not ungrateful for craving fulfillment beyond laundry and dinner. You are not disloyal for saying, I miss myself. The most revolutionary thing a married woman can do is refuse to lose herself. You don't need to abandon your marriage to rediscover yourself. You just need to stop abandoning yourself inside the marriage. There's a woman I know, a mother of 3, married for 10 years. She told me, I forgot I loved painting. I haven't picked up a brush since my wedding day. I looked her in the eye and said, pick it back up. 3 months later, she opened an Etsy store selling her art. Her eyes lit up again. Her husband? He noticed the joy in her voice and finally understood. This wasn't rebellion. This was resurrection. You were a woman with fire in your belly before the wedding dress. You don't need to turn that fire into warm comfort for others all the time. Let it burn again. Let it cook up your own dreams too. Another example, a teacher, brilliant and bold, left her job after marriage, thought I had to support his dream and raise our children. Years passed. One day, her daughter said, Mom, what did you want to be before you became just mom? That broke her. She cried for hours. Then she enrolled in a course to finish her degree. Today, she's back in the classroom, not just as a teacher, but as a woman who remembered she was allowed to be both a nurturer and a force. Marriage should never be a trade where you lose yourself to keep love. Real love doesn't demand your silence. It encourages your expression. Real partnership doesn't erase your individuality. It celebrates it. You're allowed to keep your last name, your boundaries, your rituals, your books, your beliefs, and your voice. You are not made whole by a partner. You are already whole. Marriage is not the reward for being enough. It's a journey where 2 whole people grow side by side, not one behind the other. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's the beginning of intimacy. We were taught to believe that strength means having it all together, never falling apart, never crying too loud, never letting the cracks show. But here's the truth. Most people are too scared to say, the strongest thing you will ever do is let yourself be seen. Not the version you polish up for guests, not the filtered, smiling, I'm fine face, but the messy, honest, aching, imperfect, glorious truth of who you are underneath it all. In conjugal life, women are often expected to hold the emotional center. We're told to be the glue, the nurturer, the peacemaker. But nobody tells us how heavy that crown becomes when you're not allowed to crumble. Real intimacy doesn't come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from saying, this is me, all of me, and I trust you enough to hold it without breaking it. Think of the woman who always keeps the peace in her home. She makes dinner when she's exhausted. She says it's okay when it's clearly not. She laughs when she wants to scream. Why? Because somewhere deep down, she believes that showing pain is dangerous, that vulnerability will cost her respect. But what it's really costing her is connection. You can't love someone you don't fully know. And you can't be fully loved if you hide who you really are. A woman once told me, I never cry in front of my husband. I'm afraid he'll see me as weak. And I asked her, how can he hold your heart if you never show him where it hurts? Vulnerability isn't the wound, it's the doorway to healing. We crave closeness, but we're terrified to drop the armor. We want to be understood, but we censor our truth. We want emotional intimacy, but we build emotional walls. Imagine a couple sitting in silence, each holding back tears during a fight. She wants to say, I'm scared you don't see me anymore. He wants to say, I don't know how to fix this, and that terrifies me. But instead, they argue about dirty dishes. Because it's safer to be angry than it is to be honest. But nothing changes in that space. Nothing heals. Because behind every wall we build to protect ourselves, we also lock out the ones who love us. There's a woman who journaled every night, because she didn't feel she could speak freely in her marriage. One day, her husband found the journal and read her pain. Instead of reacting with rage, he cried. He said, "Why didn't you tell me you felt this alone?" She answered, "Because I thought you'd leave me." That night became the beginning of something new. Not because they fixed everything instantly, but because they finally showed up, raw, real, ready to rebuild from a foundation of truth instead of performance. Vulnerability looks like saying, "I need help." It looks like apologizing when you're wrong. It looks like asking for affection instead of waiting in silence. It looks like expressing fear without shame, asking questions without ego, and admitting when you're not okay. It's not weakness, it's courage in its rarest form. And what's more, when you dare to be vulnerable, you give the people around you permission to do the same. Your bravery becomes a mirror for theirs. Your honesty becomes the seed of deeper love. Your truth becomes the bridge between souls that were slowly drifting apart. Because intimacy doesn't live in perfection. It lives in truth, tension, and tenderness. Respect is not optional. It's oxygen. It's not something you earn only when you've sacrificed enough or been quiet enough. It's not a reward for compliance. It is the basic minimum required for any relationship to breathe, grow, and survive. Without respect, love suffocates. Without respect, the home becomes a battleground dressed up like a sanctuary. And far too often, women are taught to prioritize peace over self-respect, harmony over honesty, and endurance over dignity. But here's the hard truth. You cannot build intimacy in a space where you are not respected. Think about a woman who walks on eggshells in her own home. She plans every sentence before she speaks. She chooses silence over truth just to avoid conflict. Her opinions are dismissed. Her needs are seen as too much. She exists, but she isn't seen. She serves, but she isn't valued. And slowly, she starts to shrink, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. Her light dims, not because she lost it, but because someone kept switching it off. Respect is not just about words, it's about space. It's about listening when she speaks, not just waiting for her to finish so you can reply. It's remembering her coffee order. It's not interrupting her dreams with practicality. It's the way a man makes eye contact when she's pouring her heart out, and the way he holds it with care. It's not rolling his eyes when she says she's tired, but asking, "How can I help?" It's not about grand gestures, it's about consistent presence. There's a story about a woman who stayed silent for years. Her husband never hit her, never yelled, but he dismissed her ideas. He laughed when she said she wanted to start a podcast. He rolled his eyes when she dressed up for dinner. He spoke over her in front of friends. And when she finally said, "I don't feel respected," he said, "I never hurt you." But here's what we need to understand. Disrespect doesn't always leave bruises. It leaves emptiness. It leaves invisibility. And being unseen is a form of emotional death. Respect looks like this. Your dreams matter. Your emotions matter. Your space matters. Your no matters. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You are the narrator of your own life, and anyone who wants to be a part of it must come with open ears, open eyes, and an open heart. Picture this, a woman who works all day, feeds her children, supports her partner, but the moment she says she needs time for herself, she's told she's too selfish. That is not love. That is not respect. Because when a woman is respected, her boundaries are not questioned. They are honored. Her time is not negotiated. It is valued. Her voice is not just heard, it is invited. Another woman I know built a business from scratch while raising a toddler. Her husband, instead of supporting her, mocked her goals. "It's just a hobby," he said, but she kept going. Eventually, her business grew. One day, she stood on stage receiving an award, and the crowd gave her a standing ovation. He finally clapped too, but the lesson was clear. Respect delayed is still respect denied. Don't wait for applause from the world when you didn't clap for her when it mattered. You need to stop romanticizing endurance and start honoring equality. If your daughter grows up watching you stay silent, what are you teaching her? That love means invisibility, that comfort is more important than character, that enduring disrespect is a badge of honor. Respect is not about fear, it's about freedom. Freedom to be soft without being seen as weak. Freedom to be bold without being labeled aggressive. Freedom to ask questions, to speak truth, to take up space. It is the foundation of emotional safety. And emotional safety is the soil in which everything else, love, laughter, joy, connection, grows. When a woman is respected, she rises. And when she rises, she lifts everyone around her. You can love others without losing yourself. That truth is simple yet revolutionary. As women, we are often taught that love is sacrifice, that to truly care for someone, whether it's a husband, child, parent, or partner, we must give until it hurts, surrender our needs, our ambitions, even our identity. But here's what they don't tell you. When love costs you, it's not love, it's loss wrapped in expectation. Real love is not the death of self, it's the celebration of it. You do not have to disappear in order to be devoted. Think of the mother who rises at 5 a.m. every day, prepares meals, handles school runs, works a full-time job, manages the home, listens to her partner vent about his day, and then falls into bed exhausted with not a moment left for herself. When was the last time she did something just because it made her heart dance? When was the last time she heard her own voice instead of just responding to everyone else's needs? She loves deeply, no doubt. But somewhere along the way, she stopped loving herself. And the world clapped for her sacrifice, but never asked about her soul. Or think about the wife who once painted, who once danced barefoot in the rain, who once wrote poetry in the back of her journal. She got married, and slowly the brushes dried, the music faded, the pen ran out of ink, not because she wanted it that way, but because she thought she had to put herself on hold to prove her love. But love should never require you to silence the parts of you that make you feel alive. The truth is, you can make breakfast for your children and feed your passion. You can attend your partner's dreams and still chase your own. Let's talk about Anna, a friend of mine. Before marriage, she was a fierce entrepreneur, full of ideas, fire, and bold ambition. After marriage, she slowly gave it all up because she felt guilty for investing time in herself. I thought being a good wife meant always being available, she told me once. Years passed. One day, her daughter looked at her and said, "Mom, what do you want to be when I grow up?" That question shattered her. It made her realize she'd stopped becoming. She had been living for everyone else and forgetting that her own existence deserved attention too. That week, she re-registered her business, and now she runs a successful company and comes home with fire in her eyes again. Her love for her family didn't shrink, it grew, because she began showing up as her whole self. You don't need to abandon your heart's calling in order to be good enough. Loving someone does not mean you dissolve into their life. It means you build a bridge between two worlds, yours and theirs, and walk hand in hand without erasing the journey that brought you to this place. You can hold someone's hand and still hold your purpose. There's this lie that says if you prioritize yourself, you're selfish. But what's selfish is expecting someone to bleed quietly so others can thrive. You can love others best when you love yourself first. Self-love is not a betrayal. It's the root of healthy connection. You are not meant to be the last name on your own to-do list. A woman who honors her identity, who says, yes, I will be there for you, but I will also be there for me, is not neglecting anyone. She's demonstrating what sustainable love looks like. She's teaching her children that dreams don't have to be shelved, that passion doesn't die at the altar, and that marriage or motherhood is not the end of becoming, but the continuation of it. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. These words don't whisper, they thunder. Because every day in homes, relationships, marriages, friendships, and even within ourselves, we are setting standards, whether we know it or not. And those standards are not set by the words we say, but by the behaviors we allow. Think of a woman who smiles every time her partner makes a disrespectful joke about her in front of friends. She laughs nervously. Maybe she even tells herself, he doesn't mean it like that. But every time she lets it slide, she teaches him that her dignity is negotiable, that her name can be the punchline, that her boundaries are optional. She might think she's choosing peace, but what she's really doing is writing the manual on how to belittle her without consequence. Every time you stay silent when your boundaries are crossed, you're handing out a permission slip. And people will keep crossing those lines because they've learned that the price for doing so is nothing, no resistance, no refusal, just more tolerance. And tolerance becomes a trap when it becomes a habit, when you get so used to being stepped on that you forget how to stand up. I remember a woman named Miriam who told me he never helps with the kids, but I've just stopped asking. I asked her why. She said, because he gets annoyed and it's easier to do it myself. I looked her in the eye and said, do you realize that every time you take on the weight without protest, you're teaching him that your exhaustion is acceptable? That hit her hard. Because somewhere along the way, she thought self-sacrifice would win love, but love that grows on the soil of one-sided effort is not love. It's dependency wrapped in convenience. You show people your value not by demanding it, but by embodying it. By the way you protect your peace, by how quickly you walk away from disrespect, by the standards you hold even when you're lonely. Because the world reads your silence like a script, and if you keep tolerating mistreatment, they'll assume you endorse it. Picture this, a woman constantly interrupted by her husband while speaking. She swallows her voice every time. Doesn't finish her sentence. Doesn't speak up. One day, her daughter starts doing the same thing in class. Why? Because she's watching. She's learning. You're not just teaching the world how to treat you. You're teaching the next generation how to define self-worth. And that is power. That is legacy. You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to fight to be respected. But you do have to draw the line and say this far and no further. Because what you tolerate today becomes your normal tomorrow. And normal can be toxic if it's built on minimizing your worth. One woman I knew kept forgiving emotional neglect, missed birthdays, ignored feelings, one-word replies. She thought, at least he's here. But presence without participation is just proximity. And when she finally stood up and said, I need more, he looked shocked. Not because she was wrong, but because she had trained him to believe she'd never ask for more. There's a boldness in saying, I deserve better, and meaning it. There's power in walking away from what no longer honors you. That moment you choose self-respect over silent endurance, everything changes. Not just because they finally see your worth, but because you finally remember it. People will rise or fall to the level of expectation you set. Raise it, guard it, enforce it, not through anger, but through certainty. Because when you refuse to tolerate less than you deserve, the world has no choice but to follow your lead. She is not just a wife, not just a mother, not just a caretaker, a giver, a listener, a nurturer. She is a soul, brilliant, burning, breathing with fire the world tried to dim. And maybe no one ever taught her how to demand respect, how to say no without guilt, how to exist without apology. But today, right here, right now, she remembers that her voice has always been her weapon, her shield, her mat. And no matter how long it's been silenced, it still holds power. It still holds worth. Because the truth is, a woman does not need permission to rise. She does not need validation to be enough. She does not need to break into pieces to prove her love. Her silence is not peace. Her suffering is not strength. And her endurance is not the only measure of her devotion. She is not here to shrink. She is here to expand, to take up space, to love fiercely without losing herself, to speak without trembling, to rest without guilt, to dream without limits. So to every woman who has been told she's too loud, too soft, too much, too little, remember this: you are not too anything. You are exactly as you are meant to be. And the moment you decide to stop apologizing for your power is the moment the world starts adjusting to your presence. Maya Angelou once said, each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. When you raise your voice, you raise the volume for generations. When you walk in your truth, you open the door for every girl who was told to sit down and smile pretty. When you choose respect over routine, worth over whispers, you don't just change your home, you change history. There is a revolution in the heart of every woman who has stayed quiet for too long, a quiet rebellion in every breath she holds back. But the time has come not to burn everything down, but to rise with grace, with truth, with unstoppable courage. The time has come to say, I will no longer be everything to everyone while being nothing to myself. The time has come to love without losing your name. Remember what Eleanor Roosevelt said: no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And you, my sister, no longer consent. You no longer sign contracts of invisibility. You no longer shrink in the name of peace. You no longer sacrifice your soul at the altar of approval. Your power was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to shine, to stretch, to set fire to every false story the world wrote about you. And if anyone ever asks you what you bring to the table, smile and say, I am the You bring strength laced with softness, wisdom dipped in laughter, courage carved from centuries of survival. You bring the ability to rebuild homes, raise empires, heal generations, while still remembering your own name in the mirror. So let this be your vow. You will no longer dim your light to make others comfortable. You will no longer play small in rooms you were born to lead. You will no longer confuse silence for peace, tolerance for love, or endurance for purpose. You will rise, and not just for yourself, but for every woman who still waits for permission, because you were never created to be silent. You were created to roar. Let the world adjust to your fire. Let them learn to hold your truth gently or burn in the flames of your refusal to be anything less than who you truly are. And when they ask how you found your power again, tell them you stopped asking and you finally remembered. You were always enough. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. This isn't just a quote, it's a mirror. It reflects not only the choices others make around you, but the choices you make for yourself every single day. Every time you say it's fine when it's not, every time you accept less than you deserve just to keep the peace, every time you bite your tongue instead of standing up for your worth, you are sending a message, and the message is, this is okay, but it's not okay, and it never was. Imagine a woman named Sarah. Every night, she makes dinner, cleans the kitchen, helps with the kids' homework, and waits for a simple thank you. It doesn't come. It hasn't come in years. She tells herself, it's normal. This is what being a wife is, right? Until one day, her daughter looks at her and says, Mom, do you even like doing all this? That question shakes her, because deep down she doesn't. But what scares her more is realizing she's teaching her daughter that love is service without recognition, that worth is measured by how much you can carry without complaint. She never meant to teach that, but through what she tolerated, that's exactly what she modeled. Tolerance becomes teaching. Every time you allow someone to raise their voice at you without consequence, you're not just enduring, you're educating. You're showing them that disrespect has no cost, that your boundaries are flexible, that your dignity is up for negotiation. But the truth is, every time you stay silent in the face of what hurts you, you lose a piece of yourself. And slowly, you become a version of you that you no longer recognize. Watered down, worn out, invisible. It's not always about yelling or confrontation. Sometimes it's in the subtle things. The friend who only calls when she needs something and you always pick up. The partner who jokes at your expense in public and you fake a laugh to avoid conflict. The colleague who takes credit for your ideas and you brush it off to keep the peace. These small tolerances, repeated daily, become your script. And others learn it well. They know how far they can go. Because you've shown them. You didn't mean to, but you did. A woman I once met, Aisha, told me her husband never celebrated her birthday. Not once in 12 years. She never asked. She didn't want to be a burden. She didn't want to nag. And yet every year she cried quietly in the bathroom, convincing herself she didn't need it. But the truth was, she did. Not the gift, not the cake, the recognition. The feeling of being seen. When she finally spoke up, he was shocked. He said, I didn't know it mattered. And that's what silence does. It convinces others your needs don't exist. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. It's clarity. It's saying, I respect myself too much to accept less than I give. It's not about changing people. It's about changing the standard of how you allow yourself to be spoken to, the standard of how your time, energy, love, and kindness are valued. People will rise or fall to the expectations you set. And if you tolerate breadcrumbs, they'll never offer the whole loaf. There is power in saying, I don't accept this anymore. Power in walking away from anything that makes you doubt your worth. Power in looking someone in the eye and saying, this version of me, the one who stayed silent, who accepted the bare minimum, she doesn't live here anymore. Because when you raise your standards, you don't lose people. You lose the ones who are only comfortable with your silence. And that's not loss. That's liberation.